Everybody, it's Sandy and welcome back to my channel dedicated to helping you advocate for your own health one topic at a time. So guys, I mentioned not too long ago on video that I can really see the possibility that we are transitioning over from pandemic to endemic. Yeah, it would have been great if we could have gotten rid of this thing entirely, but that boat sailed. Yeah, so first of all, before I get started, I just want to say welcome and thank you. I have gotten a few new subscribers lately. That's always a really nice thing. So I want to say thank you also for sharing, liking. Certainly thank you in advance if you're new to my channel. Please share with anybody that you think might benefit from or just enjoy my content. And one more quick announcement I wanted to get started, which is that this is going to sound a little bit funny, but I actually want to just dedicate this video to somebody. It's a friend who I have never met. We're friends on social media, and this person, I think the way we first got introduced is that he is a viewer of my channel, or at least was at the time, and his name is Simon. And Simon is, I believe he's still in the hospital recovering from having donated a kidney to somebody who is a friend of his. And so Simon saved somebody's life. I'm so awed by the whole experience of doing this. I sort of don't really see myself as much of a social media kind of person, but I have to say that stepping a little bit out of my comfort zone has given me so much back. And I've mentioned before that I've met other people through doing this, and I have benefited greatly from knowing people who have all kinds of wonderful gifts and life experiences to share and wisdom that I have benefited from, and I'm really grateful for it. And in this case, as I said, I want to dedicate my video to Simon because I'm just awed by somebody who would take on the opportunity to save somebody else's life, and I'm awed by just somebody who is given that opportunity. I think that it takes a special person. I think only special people are given that opportunity, and certainly only very special and wonderful people take it. There's a saying that whoever saves one life saves an entire world. And it's really true if you think about it. Simon's friend, who is now going to go on living because he has a new kidney, Simon's friend was somebody many times over. Somebody's son, somebody's father, somebody's friend, somebody's brother, I don't know, many other things, right? In some way, Simon saved all those lives. And I'm just so awed by it. And Simon, I just wanted to say that I wish you all the best. I wish you nothing but a speedy and full recovery and all the blessings that come with having done such a wonderful deed. Yeah, okay, so on to the pandemic transition over to endemic. I got to thinking about this because people have asked me, remember there was a period like when we were all getting vaccinated and what was I doing differently? And the answer wasn't all that much. But now, it really comes time to everybody has to kind of take stock for themselves and decide, what are you going to do differently when this thing sort of is, for the most part, behind us. This is provided, of course, we don't have some other crazy variant like the Delta variant spring loose, but if that's the case, we're really getting to the point where between people who've been infected and people who've been vaccinated, we're getting pretty close. Now, I don't live in the best place when it comes to COVID, in my opinion, the way it's been handled. We had a terrible time with the Delta variant over the summer, and in fact, it pretty much monopolized our healthcare system. It was just a really scary situation. I do think that people who live in the North, in the Midwest, in the Northeast, in places where they have cold winters, I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Fortunately, a lot of those places have high vaccination rates, so it might not be such a blow. But that is the time of year where up north people are gathering inside because it is too cold to be outside. And that's why they have that seasonal, that's their flu season and whatnot. And I think in hotter places, it's sort of the opposite because in the summer is when people are gathering inside to be near the air conditioning. So I'm cautiously optimistic that they're not going to have the kind of wave that we saw in the South all summer long because, again, they have such a high vaccination rate. So here's hoping people get boosted as soon as they can. I figured I would tell you the things that I have determined are going to be different for me going forward. In other words, things that I don't think are going to change even as we transition over into endemic versus pandemic. And then I'll tell you what will change for me. First of all, I've mentioned before, I have not missed grocery shopping this past year and a half. All of my grocery shopping has been online. I either do curbside pickup or I have things delivered. I don't find that even with the tip or, whatever, a delivery fee that you pay, I don't find that I have spent any more. In fact, I have saved a tremendous amount of money on groceries. I suspect it's because there's no impulse buying. Or there's just a lot of impulse buying, I think, at least when I was going to the grocery store. So I've saved a lot of money not doing it. I've also saved a lot of time, and I suspect that even though it'd probably be safe to go to the grocery store near me does ask that most people wear masks. Some grocery stores are better than others. I would do my shopping in the one that tends to have more people that are wearing masks, and I think I'd probably be safe at this point with the infection rate as low as it is. But you know what? I think that not going to the grocery store has also saved me from any number of colds, flus, and that kind of thing. And I don't miss having colds either. So I get no joy out of grocery shopping. I don't see that's going to change for me ever. Okay. So yeah, I think that that's just something that is going to be left over. I'll remember, COVID changed that for me. And I think I'm just going to keep on doing my grocery shopping online. Another thing that I think is not going to change is wearing a mask in some situations. Now, right now, I'll wear a mask anytime I'm indoors where there's other people around, but I can see that once we get to the point where we don't really have to do that anymore, I think I'm still going to be wearing a mask, at least for the time being, at certain times and at certain times of year and in certain kinds of places, depending on how many people are around. It's just not even weird anymore to wear a mask. I can remember years ago thinking, I always get sick when I travel, airports, planes, hotels, and things like that. And I used to think to myself, God, just let's take it a mask, take it from the operating room and wear it on the airplane. And at the time, it's so hard to believe this anymore, but at the time, I didn't do it because it seemed like it was just so weird. It was so far out there that I thought it might attract all kinds of attention or produce all kinds of anxiety because people might think that I have some horrible communicable disease or something. I just didn't want to cause any kind of a stir. It's just really hard to even believe that now, but that was the case just not too long ago. So now, yeah, I'll probably be wearing masks like forever when I travel. And I'll probably wear masks in a lot of places still, and especially during certain times of year, seasonally, because it's not only about COVID, but like I said, I haven't missed getting colds and the flu and all these other things. So I think that I probably will be more selective about it, but I think masks are probably here to stay, at least for those of us who are conservative about it like I am. Another thing is, I think restaurants. Now, I'm not going to say I'll never go into a restaurant and sit indoors. I think at some point I'll be comfortable doing that, but I don't see that in the near future. I feel like that's going to be a big step for me, and I don't see myself comfortable with that for some time. And I think largely the reason is there's just so many options now for outdoor dining. So depending on the weather where you live, it might be more hospitable to outdoor dining in certain seasons than others. But I think that outdoor dining has just become the way of life for me. And at some point, I'll probably eat indoors in restaurants, but I think that's a little ways off still. And that brings me to another thing, which is that I think in general, I very much have a preference, let's say, to outdoor settings. I think that that's something that's kind of shifted for me, and it's going to be a very long time, if that ever shifts back. I think that I want to be able to do more of my socializing and entertain outdoors. We actually got a brand new smokeless fire pit that we really enjoy now. We put some chairs around it. It's really nice in the cooler weather to sit around and socialize with people, make s'mores, whatever. It actually has a grill attachment, so I can grill food out there. I just feel that the more that I customize my life so that a lot more of my interactions are taking place outdoors, really the happier and healthier I'm probably going to be. So maybe that's one of the good things to come out of COVID, right? So here's another thing that I hope is here to stay, at least as an option when possible. And it's not always going to be possible. But I like the idea of telehealth visits for some things. Now, certainly sometimes you need an exam, you need to go in to see your provider, and they need to be able to, take a look and touch and whatever. But there are also times when that's not totally necessary. And I really like the idea of not having to walk into a place where people go when they're sick, or even just a place that lots of people have been crowded into a waiting room and stuff. I'm kind of done with that. And one thing that I think has come out of COVID that's been a really good thing is this option for telehealth. So just as an example, I'm on thyroid replacement medication because I'm hypothyroid, and I did a couple of videos actually on my thyroid replacement. I'm going to link something here. I'm really coasting at this point. I mean, sometimes we have to tweak the medicine, go up a little, go down a little, but it's basically the same few labs every 6 months. It's not the kind of thing where I really feel like I need to walk into that office and sit in a waiting room. And telehealth has really been a nice thing. Just kind of sit there, you can read, or just like you could in a waiting room, but you're in your own home, while you're waiting for them to come on. And, I've already gone to the lab. They have the results in front of them. We can talk about it. Hey, how's it going? Great. See you later. Goodbye. And it just saves me so much trouble all the way around. And I just kind of don't have to go to this place where a whole lot of people are congregating. I think it's better for the providers too, actually. Finally, kind of along the lines of living more outside, I think another thing that's really changed for me is thinking always about the larger mitigation efforts that has to do with ventilation. It seems that that is just so important all the way around. And I think that that's kind of going to be stuck in my head for a long time, and I kind of hope forever. So, I talked to people earlier on in the pandemic, like before we had vaccines, and people would contact me and ask, well, what kind of mask should I use? This is what I do for a living, and this is sort of the setup where I work. And we would ultimately have a long conversation about exactly what other mitigation measures these people could employ so that it didn't all boil down to one mask, because it's kind of unrealistic, especially back when nobody had vaccines. And I was always start with a discussion about ventilation. Like, do you have the power to make sure all the windows are open? Can you get fans running? Do you have windows on more than one side of the room? And, things like that. And, I also heard Scott Gottlieb speak about this briefly a few weeks ago, where he said, we've spent the last decade or so, maybe more, really focusing on getting buildings to be energy efficient, like hermetically sealed, so that we didn't waste energy with heating or air conditioning. That's probably going to have to change now, because what we really need is to have places much more well ventilated. I think in the grand scheme of things, that's going to be a worthwhile trade-off. I'd rather be less energy efficient and healthier. I think for times when you're participating in things that have to be indoors, I think it's really good to just give that some consideration. It doesn't mean you can always be in an environment where you can have windows open and fans running and things like that, but certainly there are some places that are better than others. And certainly, for example, if I'm going to be driving in my car with somebody, I'm going to prefer to have some windows open. And if I'm going to choose a venue, like I need a roof over our heads because for whatever reason, the weather, there are plenty of places that have all kinds of large windows and doors that can be opened all the way around. I think that's going to be left over. At least for me, that's going to be left over for the long term since COVID. And I think that's a really good thing. I think we're going to find out that there's some good things that came out of this pandemic, not the least of which were the technology, vaccines, etc. But I think having people start thinking along these lines, I think some of this stuff should stay. So let me know what you guys are doing and what you're thinking things are going to look like when this becomes more endemic than pandemic, and when the infection rate is down, seems for good. Hopefully that's soon. Let me know if you've given any thought to how life might look for you, how different it might be, and over what period of time. I think that's a really interesting discussion, and I think we have yet to hear an exchange of ideas about that. So I'm really looking forward to that, actually. I think that would be a welcome change. Let me know what you think, and until next time, be well. Bye-bye.